Zencoder that would explore how AI-powered SaaS is automating workflows, is accelerating development, and redefining the role of engineers. And I think having actually on stage two people here who are actually also academics and engineers working for a long time. I believe both of you are working in the AI space since 2011, before AI was even a thing. People didn't even know what AI was. It was a sci-fi Robocop type of movie. So here to the left, I have Andrew Filef, who's the CEO and founder of Zencoder. He sold, one big thing about him is that he sold in 2021 his company called Ride for $2 billion. So I would say it's a pretty substantial amount of money. And right now, I mean, and also as I said, he's an OJ. Like, fun fact about him is that he started competing, he had a hobby team competing in the DARPA Robotics Challenge in 2012. That introduced him actually already to agents and planning and reinforcement learning. So all of these topics of the day. And then next to him, we have Anand Kulkarni, who's the CEO and founder of Crowd Robotics. His background is UC Berkeley AI researcher. He's also a serial founder, but also at the same time as an academic, he has published a big body of work around all these topics on early reasoning, chain of thought algorithms, and even in the pre-LLM era, using Mechanical Turk as a reasoning engine. And that was in 2012. Well, both of you very, very impressive. And I think I would like to start with, let's say, the elephant in the room, right? So we're having now AI as the tool that, like, it has mass adoption, consumers using it on the daily activities, and to be honest, people who are not developers anymore use it, right? And you can build without needing to code. Is that something that should alarm us? Is it something that should scare us, like developers? Like, you know, there's an interesting stat that actually Andrew shared with me that Indeed says that engineering jobs are 70% down. So how, like, what do you guys think?
Well, I would like us to debunk a couple of myths on this panel today, because whenever media touches something, it becomes very polar, one way or another, right? So that Indeed stat is complete baloney, because I would only believe in the Department of Labor statistics stat. If you're hiring engineers, I don't know how many of you do. I hire hundreds of engineers. I don't remember the last time I posted a job for engineers on Indeed. So I think it just shows the decline of Indeed penetration in their recruiting for engineers. That's what the chart is about. And I'm happy to debunk other myths on the other side, but that's my answer to the Indeed one. They should do their job better and build a better recruiting platform.
I think that there's been a lot of hype about the death of the software engineer, especially as we start to get one-shot outcomes from a lot of these new generative AI approaches. I think a lot of the media stories miss the fact that there's a upper limit to the complexity of what you can really produce using these tools without human intervention. And that's the place where human engineers will continue to persist, I think, for some time to come. So I don't worry about this quite as much as I think the folks on Indeed do.
I like it though. Okay, whoever here works for Indeed or HR Tech, please take notes. Make your notes and change potentially your recruitment platforms. That's true though. I agree actually with you, Andrew. A lot of people usually don't hire from these platforms, right? They go from word to mouth or like recommendation because it's important to have trust. And as you also say, Anand, basically in the end, there's always like a level of, like the human touch that you need, right? Regardless of anything. Just coming as a member of media, let's say, and introduce myself actually on that note, I'm writing a lot around data and AI as a topic. So I do hear you exactly this, that there's a lot of polarization, right? There's the extreme view of like, oh, we don't need code anymore. But then there's also the other side where it says, well, the code is buggy and you do need someone to fix it. So what do you say about this?
Yeah, that's another interesting sort of the opposite take from the media. And I continue to see it many times. So about a year ago, there was a very popular report that some consultants did that basically try to portray all AI code as garbage. It's like, hey, with the AI code, like the churn is so high that you're going to spend more time maintaining it. And even recently, yesterday, Google News popped an article for me where I'm like, oh my God, how could anyone write the article? The article stated this: OpenAI issued a new research saying that coding AI is worse than humans. Okay? So now I've read that research, and the research was this: OpenAI scraped problems that human freelancers did on Upwork, worth $1 million. And their platform was able to solve almost half of that problem. More specifically, $400-something thousand worth of problems. So you can take Cloud Sonnet, the model, plug it in, and it's going to earn you $400,000. And the media pushed the report saying that AI is not as good as humans. So it sort of boggles me. But long story short, I think that OpenAI report is very telling. My company, Zencoder, we work in producing coding agents, so tools that support engineers on a daily basis. And those agents, in our benchmark on certain repositories, we kind of replicate what OpenAI did. They can solve half of the bugs or half of the problems, and that's amazing. Like, if you could imagine that, and the industry is only accelerating at this point, so I expect this number to be much higher by the end of this year. And I also see it in real customer conversations where, yes, a year ago, AI was not strong enough, and so there was a lot of buzz about it, like how cool it is, but it was to a large degree more rhetoric, right? Versus today, it's an actual tool, and anybody who denies that or doesn't see it is going to be left behind. And so for a lot of their VP of engineering that we talk to, they got this light bulb moment where they try the new stuff and like, oh my God, like I was a skeptic a month ago and now I'm a believer. So I do think that this industry changes a lot, and I do think that kind of overhyping on one end and sort of crashing it on the other hand does not help the actual customers. The truth is in between, where humans are awesome, and hopefully we can talk about it more, and what's the human role, how it evolves and whatnot. So humans are awesome, and AI is also awesome, and them together are 10x more awesome when they can do a lot.
28. What do you think?
Well, look, I think that the more that we see improved outcomes from the AI software engineering tools out there, for example, that same research study from OpenAI had a fabulous result showing that in a constrained environment, you can get really good outcomes on tasks that are real in the real world. The more that you see these AI tools outperform, the more important it's going to be for us to think about the related roles inside the organization that end up becoming more important. So in a universe where half of our work is being done in software engineering, meaning the actual coding tasks by AI software engineering agents, it becomes more important for folks who are the VP of engineering, for the product manager, for the business analyst to think about everything else that needs to go into that tool to make an effective outcome. So in my company, Crowdbotics, we see a lot of customers who are adopting AI software engineering tools. We focus on AI requirements, which end up becoming increasingly important the more and more you start using AI software agents. And so the more that we can start to see these tools be adopted, the more important it's going to be for us to think about everybody else in that organization who is being affected by that, not just the software engineer.
Yeah, I mean, I think like you both make a very good point about like not over-sensationalizing something and not going to the polar opposites. But one thing that is for sure true is that AI is here to stay and that is changing the way we work. So from your perspective, and specifically working so closely with the development team, with the engineering team, like how do you see this changing the role of the developer and the engineer? And one thing that you were both fascinated and wanted to talk about is like how are those machines, potentially these agents, will work with each other?
So
you want to?
Yeah. I can take this one. So we think about we spend a lot of time looking with our customers who are often CIOs or VPs of engineering at the overall cycle time that they're spending going through a sprint and understanding where time is being spent by engineers, by business analysts, by product managers, by designers, and trying to break apart which parts can be affected by AI tools and which parts are likely to be better left to human judgment. And we see this interesting phenomenon, which is that first, the amount of time that the team is spending actually sitting and writing code is actually not as big as you would think. It's something like, at worst, 10% of an engineer's time, and the rest is spent planning and thinking, and of course in a lot of organizations, they can do better than that. But it means that we have to spend a lot of our time thinking about ways that you can optimize the overall process using generative AI, not just the time somebody spends in code. And in the best organizations, you can knock off something like 30% to 50% of the entire sprint, which is a big speed up. But it's not just about where you spend time coding.
Yeah, from my experience, one of the immediate changes in the software industry that happens today is that engineers who adopt AI are starting to get good at breaking down complex problems into simple ones. Because AI is, at the current level of technology, is better applied trying to solve simple granular problems, well-specified problems. So engineers, to some degree, are learning to create those mini specifications, if you will, and break down the problem, and then kind of almost like outsourcing it to AI, except that it's instant, right? So it kind of sends it that way. And then to the point about engineers spending a lot of time kind of poking around, I think that problem will also be addressed by AI, because the agents that we develop today, they sometimes understand the large repositories better than humans do, because they explore them and kind of build different connectivity. So that's another time saver. But again, in terms of changing of profession, one thing that I personally would predict is that there will be much more product management and design job in day-to-day engineers profession compared to today, and less of a coding job as it is today.
It's a shift of the engineer to becoming more of a director of agents, as opposed to just a person with hands on the keyboard.
But ultimately, I don't know about you all, but I came into engineering, software engineering, as a creator, right? Like I didn't come there for the specific minutia of this programming language or that programming language. From my childhood, I was excited about this idea that I can create something in this digital world fairly quickly. And so from that perspective, as a creator, the fact that now you can, pun not intended, be more creative, right, and kind of spend more time on design thinking, I think that's exciting. That's very empowering.
Maybe we can do actually a little bit of a pulse check here. How many of you are engineers in this audience? Oh, right. There's okay. You're concerned. You want to know what the role of your profession is. Developers. Okay, less. Well, design is business people. Okay, all right. So I think the engineers here are the majority, right? I want to ask them if they're scared they're going to lose their job, but I'm not going to jump to them yet. I want to ask you, since you're talking a lot about this, and of course, like all these engineers here, the developers here, they're potentially thinking, I mean, I just met on the way to the stage, I met this person who took me to the stage, and she's studying computer science, right? And it used to be like 5-10 years ago, the hottest job on the market, right? And you would make a lot of money just becoming a computer scientist. Nowadays, since you're saying that the market is evolving, you don't really need to code that much. You need to maybe like debug or like work a little bit around things, and you're more like a creative thinker. Is it still worth it to study computer science, or should we study something else?
I got this question, believe it or not. I got it last week from an investor, potential investor, who's got a kid who's about to go to college, study computer science. He was like, hey, should my kid go into this program? And I said, now more than ever, right? So many of you here have some gray hair, and you've seen how technology evolved over the last couple of decades, or some of you might have seen it even before. I saw punch cards. I never used them personally, but I did study assembly language back in the day. I did study C, and then I studied more higher level languages like C++, and then Java, and then Python. And so all of this is higher level of abstractions that allow you to create faster and more, right? And then you have cloud and open source, which is extremely large multiplier. Like try to create an assembly, what you can create today, you know, with Python and open source and cloud. So you're literally going to be 100x more productive. And so I think it's the same kind of evolution where you are going to be 10x more productive, at least those of you who are willing to jump on this train and kind of embrace it, which has always been part of the technology, right? If you want to become a software engineer, that's part of the trade. You got to keep learning and kind of keep adapting to the new tech. So from that perspective, I think fundamental computer science education is more important than ever. Some of it is going to stay the same as I studied and the same as people studied 20 years before me. And some of it will absolutely change to enable people to create more and better with their help of AI.
There's no substitute, I think, for learning the foundational elements of computer science. Today, more than ever, And I think the way that you are learning computer science is going to change if you're coming up in today's world as opposed to coming up when we came up. You'll still learn the same core foundation that allows you to create much more. And I think if you're starting today, you can set your sights even bigger than what you create in the past, because you're building with such powerful tools at your disposal. So I think now is perhaps the most exciting time to be a beginner in computer science, because you've got so much at your fingertips.
So everybody here who's engineer developers, you can relax. And I guess one last question, you're also working a lot with engineering developers. What advice would you give to someone starting off? Like, how to best position themselves in this space?
So I think what we just discussed applies a lot. So you have to have the solid fundamentals. It always helps on the job, because otherwise it hunts you back sooner or later. And then just embrace the new technologies and play with them. And because you're new, you actually have some advantage to people who are ingrained in their sort of old ways of thinking, because they're going to be discounting that. They're going to be, oh, this stuff doesn't work. I read somewhere by a reporter who knows nothing that this stuff doesn't work. Well, guess what? It does work, and it again gets better every day. So embrace the new stuff, play with it, and you have a chance to become expert. In fact, I did this at the beginning of my career. So when I started my real professional career, Java was already out there, and I'm like, I cannot be the world's best in Java, because there are people who've been programming in Java 5 years more than I am. But there's this new technology coming from Microsoft that is just coming out of the door, back then called ASP Plus. Yeah, and I'm like, this is going to take over corporate world, and so I'm going to be the best person at that technology. And I was 18 years old, right? And so that kind of helped me launch my career. So be the best person at this new technologies, and you have you have even more advantage than people who've been doing these things for 10 years before, and that's going to launch your career much faster and much further.
I think that because we are building with such powerful tools today, it becomes more important now than it has in the past to think about what you want to create, how you can articulate and really specify what you're trying to build, and what kind of change you want to make with that technology out in the world. One of the powerful things about being able to create using today's tools is that the gap between your idea and concept and the reality is smaller than it has ever been, but it becomes increasingly important to really specify the requirements of what you are trying to create in a way that is going to be accommodated by today's tools. And I think that's where the creators of today are going to end up mastering a new set of skills.
Thank you. So that was very excellent tips for everybody here, like developers or not. I would love to actually have a selfie with you on stage, if that's okay for you. Let's do the. All right, awesome. I would like to thank you and the audience. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.